All right, it's time for this week's market snapshot. What's happened in the Northern Virginia real estate market in the last 7 days in under 5 minutes. Here we go. Okay, so I am here at my open house. It's beautiful, beautiful open house. It's a brand new build, mid-century modern, built by ACG Homes, priced at about $1.9 million. It's in Falls Church. If you guys are interested and want to learn more about this property, please let me know. Today we are talking about what has happened in the Northern Virginia real estate market in the last 7 days. I talk about this every few weeks. I'll just remind you of what we're doing with this weekly market report. I feel like it's timely to say this today because next week's market report will have the month over month. So we are looking at what we call lead measures. We're looking at, for demand, we're looking at buyers that went under contract, and for supply, we're looking at new inventory that came onto the market. We're doing a ratio of supply versus demand, because what that tells us is in real time how to make decisions based on what's going on volume-wise in the market. If you use sold data, the problem with sold data is that it's significant and it's important because it gives us a broad view of what's going on in the market. But sold data can often be up to 75 days old. You can't make real-time decisions with information about what was happening 75 days from today. We're in October, was what, mid-August. So you can't react to what was going on in mid-August, because if a property goes under contract August 1st and it closes August 31st or September 1st, that transaction is now 30 days old because of what was happening August 1st. Then you have to wait it's in September, you have to wait for all of September to pass. So it's now September 30th before you can start collecting all the September sales data. Now that transaction is 60 days old, and then it takes probably a week or two to get the information put together and out to the public. So you're looking at 75-day-old data. So you cannot make real-time decisions based on 75-day-old data. So what we're looking at here, this is maximum 7 days old, so you can make real-time decisions. All right, so let's get into it. Let's look at what's going on in the market. So this black line, as always, is going to be our buyer activity. These are the properties that went under contract in the last 7 days, and you can see that we had a slight decrease in buyer activity over the last 7 days. And then the teal line is inventory. And you can see the last 2 weeks, we've had significant drops in inventory. Where are we versus last year based on weekly supply versus demand? Well, if you look over here, you can see that inventory is sitting right about here. So inventory is a bit higher than it was last year. And buyer activity is also a bit higher. So the market is actually higher and stronger right now than it was last year at this time. There are more transactions happening, but there's more inventory that's kind of sitting. So what we look at is we want to look at the delta between demand versus supply. And when we look at that delta, we can see that anything above this gray line right here is considered a seller's market. Anything below the gray line is considered a buyer's market. So you can see that we're still in the seller's market, but it came down just a little bit. The feel of the market out there, we're seeing that properties are sitting a little bit longer. In fact, let's look at the contract trend so you can actually see what's happening. So we're looking in this middle line here because this specifically is Virginia. These are 90 contracts, which came in from September 16th through 22nd. So this data is a little bit old. We usually get these reports on either Friday or Monday. Right now, they've been coming on Monday. So it's a little bit behind, but that's okay. It still gives us an idea about what happened contract-wise. You can see that 33% of properties on the market are still going above list price. 29% are going at list price. So that means that 62% of the properties are still going at list price or above. These are going to be your properties that are priced appropriately. They're staged, they're in the right condition. If they're not staged and if they're not in good condition, they're priced appropriately for that situation. 39% of the properties went for below list price. These are the properties that are overpriced. Market values are not dropping. As of August market report, August year over year had gone up 2%. July previously had gone up 4%. We'll see what October did. I'll run those numbers for next week's report. But prices are still going up. They're just not going up as steeply as they were a couple of years ago. Days on market. So properties are selling 29% sold within 7 days of going on the market. That 29% roughly correlates with the 33% of properties that went over asking price. So what that says is even about 4% of the properties that stayed on the market more than 7 days still went over asking price. 35% of properties went for 8 to 21 days, and 29% of properties went at list price. So basically we have 64% of properties, it took 21 days or less to sell, and 62% of those properties sold at or above list price. So we're seeing a pretty strong correlation that if your property gets enough activity and it gets sold within that first 21 days, you're going to be getting it at least list price or probably above. Buyers, this is important for you to understand, because when you go in to write an offer, if a property's only been on the market for 20 days and it's priced fairly, don't expect a discount at that point, because there's still a strong opportunity that seller is going to get the listing price. So 36% of properties went at 22 days or more. What does this mean as far as the financing versus cash? We saw a lot more cash transactions. We've seen this number increasing the last couple weeks. We saw 21% of properties were bought in cash in Virginia. Contingencies, staying pretty consistent. Actually, it went down a little bit. So we've been seeing about 3/4 of the buyers have been getting their finance contingencies and appraisal contingencies. And we saw these numbers go down just a little bit to 68% on finance and 65% on appraisal. But we did see an increase in buyers getting their inspection contingencies, with that being 60% that did get them. So, so basically what these trends mean is for buyers, you've got an opportunity right now with the decrease in interest rates. Now, I know they haven't decreased in the last week or two, but they did come down quite a bit prior to that, and they'll probably come down again a little bit before the October meeting. There's an October meeting, I can't remember when the next meeting is, but they'll probably come down a little bit again before the next Fed meeting, if they're assuming that there's going to be a drop again. But you've got a window of lowering interest rates. You've got a window of the Doge layoffs have put people, typically they'll take a week or two and kind of sit back to, not the Doge layoffs, I'm sorry, the shutdown will take a couple weeks to kind of see what's going to play out there. So there's a couple week window right now where you could go into properties with a lot less competition, and even if there is some competition, you still might be able to get your inspection contingency and your finance contingencies. So it's not a market where you're going to start getting deals on properties unless they've been on the market for more than 22 days. But it is an opportunity, a market where you can go in there and get your protections and get a fair property for a fair price with fair protections involved. So it's a really good time for buyers right now. Sellers, if you price your property appropriately, you're still getting top market value. Even though there's not as much demand out there, you're still getting top market value. So it's still a good time to sell. It really, really is. So if you're a seller and you're thinking about, you might want to consider putting your property on the market, or what do you need to do to get it ready to go on the market, reach out to us. Be happy to come by and walk through the house with you and give you some pointers on that. And buyers, take advantage of this window right now. Give us a call, either buyer or seller. Give us a call, 703-783-2143, or you can message us on whatever platform you're seeing this. All right, hope everybody has a great week out there, and we'll see you on next week's video.